Today, Missouri Governor Mike Parson got a first-hand look at the southern border.
Yeah, he joined Texas Governor Greg Abbott and 13 other Republican governors at the border. First Alert 4's Justin Andrews is here tonight to explain Parson's mission in Texas today. Justin.
Yes, Corey. Mike Parson just landed back in Jefferson City tonight a little after 9 o'clock. He was on the ground taking a look, first-hand look at the southern border in Texas for the first time. He says a strong southern border leads to a stronger Missouri. Parson was standing in solidarity with Governor Greg Abbott and more than a dozen other governors supporting Texas's right to defend itself against what they call President Joe Biden's border crisis. Governor Parson says the border has to be secured, but explains at this point the president and what's happening in D.C. won't help secure it. So Parson says the Missouri National Guard will do more in Texas. He tweeted this video a little more than an hour ago.
For me as governor of Missouri, my job is to make sure that we secure and we take care of the people in this state. So tomorrow, we will start the process of working with the Operation Lone Star to be able to put boots on the ground and be able to help even more than what we already have.
The Missouri Democratic Party sent out a statement saying, quote, "It is shameful but unsurprising that Governor Parson and other national leaders of the Republican Party have chosen to call a press conference in Eagle Pass instead of calling on their colleagues in Congress to pass a bipartisan border deal that would address the national security crisis," end quote. The Missouri Democratic Party even went further with this, calling Parson and other governors, quote, "power-hungry politicians." Tonight, we're learning Senator Josh Hawley is applauding Parson's trip to Texas. Corey.
All right, Justin, thank you.